You tell yourself it's desire. That familiar ache creeping into your chest, the pull in your stomach when you see her, the restless hunger gnawing at your insides when you're alone at night. You call it lust. You think it's about the body, about pleasure, about touch. But what if it isn't? What if what you're chasing isn't sex but meaning? There's a strange truth hiding behind every fantasy, a shadow you never look at directly because it's more comfortable to call it something else. Lust is easy to explain, it's animal, it's normal. But what if Carl Jung was right? What if the things you crave most are just symbols, masks hiding what you're really missing? He said we don't just want people, we want wholeness. We want something we lost or never had. And when you meet someone who stirs up your longing, it isn't just because they're beautiful, it's because they mirror something that feels missing inside you. They ignite the ache of a forgotten self. Think back, not to your last relationship, not even to the last time you felt that fire in your blood. Go deeper. When was the first time you felt hollow, like you weren't enough? For many it starts early. A childhood moment you didn't understand at the time. A parent who was distant, a wound that went unnamed, and now decades later it comes back dressed in the skin of a woman and you call it desire. But it's not. Not really. Lust is the surface. Emptiness is the core. There's a silence inside you that you keep trying to fill. But no matter how many bodies you lie beside, no matter how many kisses you steal, it keeps echoing. You mistake it for horniness, for craving. But it's actually loneliness. It's grief. It's the longing for something sacred, something permanent in a world where everything keeps slipping away. You see her smile, and it floods you with a feeling, one that doesn't belong to her. That intensity, that longing. It's not about the present, it's about the past. You're not really seeing her, you're seeing a projection, a mirror of the part of you that feels unloved, unwanted, incomplete. Carl Jung called it the anima, the inner feminine in every man. She's not a person, she's a force, a dream, a symbol of all you've repressed, all you've forgotten. And when you meet a woman who activates your anima, it can feel like destiny, like obsession, like lust so deep it burns. But here's the twist, it's not about her. It never was. You're not chasing her. You're chasing yourself. The self you left behind when you learned to toughen up. When you became what the world expected. When you shut down your feelings to survive. And now she's back, not as a voice inside, but as a woman outside, seductive, mysterious, impossible to possess. And she leaves you feeling like a boy again. Needy, addicted, ashamed. You want to text her at midnight. You want to see her name light up your phone. You feel ridiculous because you're not this guy. You're rational. You're grounded. But something about her throws you off. And no matter how many times you tell yourself to move on, you don't. You can't. Because she isn't just a person. She's a symbol. And symbols don't go away when the person does. They live in you. This is where most men get trapped. They confuse symbolic hunger with sexual desire. They try to solve a soul-level need with physical contact, but after the body cools, the ache remains. The void stares back, and they think they need more. A different woman, a new rush, another escape. But the truth is, what you need isn't more women. It's more of you. You need to reclaim the part of yourself you gave away. The part that feels, that longs, that breaks, the part you buried under silence, under logic, under toughness. Because until you do, every woman you desire will carry the weight of your unlived life. You'll keep asking her to complete what only you can retrieve. That's why the fantasy is so powerful. It's not about sex, it's about salvation. You want her to save you from yourself, from your past, from your pain. You want her to look at you and make you feel like a man again, whole, chosen, worthy. But that's too much to ask of anyone. And so the cycle begins: attraction, intensity, disillusionment. You blame her for not being enough, but deep down you know it's not her fault. She was never supposed to fill the hole inside you. She just reminded you that it's there. Carl Jung believed that we must confront our shadows, not run from them. And what is this ache you call lust, if not a shadow begging for your attention? What if instead of chasing women you sat with the emptiness? What if you stopped calling it desire and started calling it what it truly is, a cry from your inner world? That kind of honesty takes courage, because it means admitting that you're not okay, that you're lonely, that your masculinity was built on armor, not intimacy, that your strength came at the cost of softness, that somewhere along the way you lost your connection to your own soul, and now your soul is trying to come back disguised as lust. You see when the body wants it's loud, but when the soul wants it's poetic. It whispers through longing. It shows up in dreams. It slips into your fantasies and waits for you to notice. But most men never do. They keep chasing the body and ignoring the meaning. But if you stop and really listen, you might realize you don't want her body. You want her presence. You want to be seen, not seduced. Held, not devoured. You want to rest, to surrender, to stop pretending you're fine when you're not. And that's where the healing begins. Not in sex, but in silence. Not in conquest, but in connection. Not in another person, but in returning to the parts of you that you abandoned. Because when you stop looking outside for completion, something changes. You stop craving, and you start creating. You stop hunting, and you start healing. Lust fades, but emptiness remains until you face it. And in that confrontation, something miraculous happens. You realize you were never broken. You were just disconnected. And every desire you ever felt was really a message, a call home. Not to her, but to you. You keep telling yourself you're over her, that it was just a phase, that it didn't mean much. But every now and then, out of nowhere, something small breaks you wide open. A scent, a song, a stranger's laugh that sounds just like hers, and suddenly you're right back in that emotional storm you thought you'd left behind. You feel foolish for still caring. You judge yourself for being weak. You scroll past her name, convincing yourself you don't miss her. But your body tells the truth. That tightness in your chest, that's not lust. That's longing. And not for her, but for what she represented. Because what you lost wasn't just a relationship. It was a part of your soul that came alive in her presence. Carl Jung called this the inner union, the moment a man touches his own unconscious through the mirror of another. When he meets a woman who awakens something buried, it feels like fate. But it's not about her. It's about him finally seeing himself. And when she leaves, it's not just heartbreak. It's spiritual disorientation. You thought you wanted her. But what you really wanted was what she brought out in you, the softness, the warmth, the vulnerability. You wanted the version of yourself who could feel again, who could hope, who could dream without shame. And now without her you feel numb. You try to fill that void with distractions. Maybe you work more, maybe you drink, maybe you chase other women hoping one of them will reignite that same spark. But it never works. Because what you're grieving isn't just her, it's the brief reunion with your own soul that she triggered. That's why nothing else compares. Jung said that every man carries an image of the feminine in his soul. This image isn't real, it's a symbol formed by years of fantasy, childhood impressions, stories, wounds, and unmet needs. And when you meet a woman who matches that image, your unconscious lights up. You think this is it, you feel alive, you feel whole. But you're not whole, you're projecting. And projections, Jung warned, are dangerous. They blind you. They make you believe that salvation lies outside of you. They turn real people into myths and myths into obsessions. The moment she becomes more than human in your mind, you lose yourself. You stop seeing her and start seeing your own wounds wearing her face. That's why it hurts so much when she walks away. Because it feels like you're being abandoned by something sacred, something divine. But what you're really losing is the illusion, the fantasy you wrapped around her to avoid confronting your own emptiness. It's not lust. It's not love. It's your shadow dressed up like desire. And it's trying to get your attention. But most men don't know how to listen. We're taught to push through, to stay strong, to never fall apart. So instead of facing the ache, we avoid it. We dive into the next pursuit, hoping to outrun the silence inside. But you can't outrun something that lives within you. You can only turn and face it. Here's what that means. It means accepting that you are not okay. That there are parts of you that feel unworthy, unloved, unseen. It means recognizing that no woman, no amount of sex or validation can fix that for you. It means grieving not just her absence, but the absence of your own self that you abandoned long ago. This is the dark night of the soul. It's not glamorous. It doesn't look good on Instagram. It's you alone staring into the void and asking, who am I without her? Who am I when I'm not chasing anyone? What do I really need? And when you sit with those questions long enough, something begins to shift. The hunger softens, the desperation fades, and in their place, a quiet knowing begins to rise. A knowing that what you truly crave is not a body, but belonging. Not a thrill, but truth. Not passion, but peace. The woman you miss wasn't your savior. She was your mirror. She showed you the parts of yourself that still need your love. The child in you who still wants to be held. The boy who still wants to be chosen. the man who still doesn't know how to forgive himself. She woke all of that up and then walked away, leaving you to figure out what to do with it. That is her gift. Not her presence, but her departure. Not her love, but her absence. Because in losing her, you're given a choice to either keep chasing ghosts or start chasing yourself. That's what Jung meant when he said the purpose of projection is to bring the unconscious into awareness. You were never meant to stay fixated on her. You were meant to trace the ache back to its source and heal. But healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means integrating. It means realizing that the desire was never wrong, it was just misdirected. It means understanding that lust is a language your soul uses when it doesn't know how else to say, "I need to come home." And coming home takes time. It's not a weekend retreat. It's not a rebound. It's a long, messy process of learning how to sit with yourself, how to breathe through the craving, how to honor your desires without letting them rule you, how to find sacredness in solitude. Because when you stop chasing and start listening, the emptiness begins to speak. It tells you that you are tired of pretending, that you are ready to stop performing, that you want to be loved, not for your power or your control or your achievements, but for your presence, for the man you are when no one is watching. And that man, he doesn't need to prove anything. He doesn't need to conquer anyone. He doesn't need to chase. He simply needs to remember. Remember that his wholeness was never lost, just forgotten. Remember that his soul has always been calling through dreams, through longing, through heartbreak. Remember that his worth is not tied to who desires him, but to who he chooses to become. So the next time you feel that ache rising, the next time you think you need her to feel whole again, ask yourself this: what am I really missing? And then go meet that part of you. Sit with it. Breathe into it. Honor it. Because that's the beginning of the return. The end of the chase. The start of a deeper love, not for her, but for you. You don't need another lesson in how to move on. You've heard it all before. Time heals. There are plenty of fish in the sea. Just stay busy. But none of it touches the real pain. Because this isn't just about heartbreak. This is about identity. About a part of you that collapsed when she left. And no routine, no mantra, no dating app can fix that. Because the wound isn't on the surface, it's in your soul. This is where Carl Jung's shadow work becomes more than theory. It becomes a lifeline. Because what you're dealing with isn't just loss, it's confrontation. You've lost your distraction, the person who made you forget for a little while that you were incomplete. And now, stripped of her warmth, you're left with the cold truth of who you are when no one else is around. And that man, the one you see in the mirror now, he needs more than healing. He needs transformation. You thought you needed closure. But what you really need is revelation. To finally understand that what you've been calling lust is actually your longing to come back to yourself. To feel something pure, something sacred. Not in her, but in the way you exist in this world, Jung said. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. And isn't that what's been happening? You keep getting pulled toward the same type of woman, the same dynamic, the same heartbreak. Over and over you think it's something outside of you, but it's not fate, it's a pattern. And the pattern has roots. Maybe your mother was unpredictable. Maybe your father was absent. Maybe love felt like walking on eggshells. So now as an adult, you chase intensity and call it chemistry. You crave what's familiar, not what's healthy. And when she finally gives you that push and pull, that rush, that fire, you mistake it for love. But it's not love, it's repetition, and it's exhausting. Jung didn't ask us to repress these feelings. He asked us to meet them, to follow the trail of desire inward and see what's hiding beneath. So let's ask the hard question: what are you afraid will happen if you stop chasing her? What do you think you'll have to feel if the lust goes quiet? Maybe it's shame. Maybe it's guilt. Maybe it's the terrifying realization that no one is coming to rescue you, not her, not anyone. And in that silence, a deeper voice speaks. It tells you the truth that what you really want is wholeness. You want to feel grounded in your own skin. You want to feel proud of the man you are when you're alone. You want to look in the mirror and see someone you respect, not someone who needs a woman to feel alive. This is what Jung called individuation, the slow, painful process of becoming who you really are, not who society told you to be, not who you thought you had to become to be loved, but who you are underneath the masks. And the irony is most men only start this journey after losing a woman they thought they couldn't live without, because her leaving forces you to look within. And for the first time, you're not trying to impress anyone. You're not performing. You're not seducing. You're just there, sitting with your ache, sitting with the boy inside you who never got what he needed, sitting with the man who's tired of pretending he's fine. And in that stillness you begin to see clearly. You see that what drew you to her wasn't just her body or her smile or her confidence. It was how she reflected your inner longing, how she made you feel seen, if only for a moment. And now in her absence you realize you've spent your whole life waiting for someone else to give you what only you can give yourself. That's where the work begins, not in moving on, but in moving in, into your own emotional body, into the memories you've buried, into the grief you've avoided, into the hopes you gave up on long ago. You walk into the darkness not to punish yourself, but to retrieve the pieces of you that got lost in the chase. This is where real power begins, not in control, not in conquest, but in presence. Because when you can sit with your emptiness without needing to fill it, you become whole. You stop needing her to validate your worth. You stop needing desire to distract you from pain. You stop chasing and you start choosing, not out of fear, but out of truth. And from that place, everything changes. Your relationships become cleaner. Your boundaries become firmer. You stop confusing lust with love, chaos with passion, attention with care. You start recognizing the difference between being wanted and being respected, between being needed and being loved. And perhaps most importantly, you begin to love yourself not in a cliché self-help way, but in a grounded, lived-in, battle-tested way. You love the parts of you that were once too tender to face. You love the longing. You love the ache. Because now you see them for what they really are: invitations. Not to run, not to chase, but to return. To the self you abandoned when love first let you down. To the man you were before the world told you who to be. To the peace that comes when you stop outsourcing your wholeness. So, no, it was never just lust. It was the soul's hunger wrapped in fantasy. It was the unconscious calling disguised as attraction. It was your shadow asking to be held. And now that you've heard it, you can't unhear it. The next time that ache rises, the next time you feel pulled toward someone with a fire you can't explain, pause. Ask yourself, is this about her, or is this about the part of me I'm trying to find? And then listen, because the answer isn't out there. It never was. There comes a moment, maybe in the silence after another restless night, or in the quiet clarity of a morning when no one is around, when you finally realize the truth. She was never the answer. Not the one who lit the fire, not the one who walked away. She was a signpost, a mirror, a messenger, and the message has always been the same: come home to yourself. You thought it was lust, you thought it was love, but what it really was longing. For meaning, for reunion, for a wholeness you haven't felt since you were too young to name it. You didn't just want her touch, you wanted her to awaken something that had gone numb inside you, and for a while maybe she did. Maybe she brought warmth where there had been cold. But when she left, that warmth turned to ash, and that's when the real work began. Carl Jung didn't say the journey would be easy. He said it would be necessary. He called it individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are, by facing every shadow, every forgotten part of yourself, and integrating them into something whole. And that process almost always begins with loss. Because only in the absence of the thing you thought you couldn't live without do you finally realize what was missing was never outside of you. It's a hard pill to swallow. Because it means the ache is yours, the longing is yours, the emptiness is yours, and so is the responsibility to face it. You're not a victim of love, you're not cursed, you're not broken, you're just unfinished. And the story isn't over, not even close. But to continue, you have to choose a different path. Not the path of pursuit, chasing the next thrill, the next fix, the next fantasy. That road always loops back to the same place: emptiness. Instead, you walk the harder road, the one that leads inward. And on that road you meet someone unexpected. You meet the man you've avoided, the one who's tired, the one who's scared, the one who still believes he has to earn love. You meet the version of you that never got to speak because he was too soft, too sensitive, too full of need. The version of you who was told to toughen up, to move on, to stop feeling so much. But here's the secret: he's the one who holds your freedom. Because he remembers what you forgot, that your worth was never based on being wanted or chased or chosen. It was always there, underneath the masks, beneath the armor, beyond the performance. And when you let him speak, really speak, he doesn't ask for another woman. He asks for your presence. He asks you to stop abandoning him, to stop numbing him, to stop calling him names like weak and needy and not enough. He asks for your love, not the kind you give to win someone over, but the kind that says, I see you, I won't leave you again. This is how the spell breaks. This is how you stop falling for the same story, the same intensity that always burns out, the same desire that always leaves you empty, the same voice that tells you you'll be whole when someone finally stays. No one can stay if you haven't stayed with yourself. Because even if she comes, even if she's everything you've ever dreamed of, she can't fix a man who's abandoned his own soul. She can love you, sure, but she can't complete you. That's not her job. That's yours. And when you finally do the work, when you stop running, stop seducing, stop numbing, something shifts. You stop craving attention and start craving truth. You stop needing intensity and start valuing peace. You stop chasing love and start embodying it. And ironically, that's when love becomes possible, real love. Not the projection, not the fantasy, not the desperate grip of unmet childhood need, but something sacred, grounded, whole. Because you're not coming to her from lack. You're coming to her from overflow, not because you need her to fix you, but because you fixed what you could, and now you want to share the journey. That's the kind of love Jung pointed toward, not the romantic high, but the soulful union of two people who have faced themselves, owned their shadows, and chosen each other anyway. A love not based on completing each other, but on witnessing each other in wholeness. But before that, there's the fire. There's the loneliness, the hunger, the nights when you almost text her, the moments when you want to disappear into someone else's body just to escape your own. And in those moments you have a choice: repeat the cycle or rise above it. You rise by remembering what you've learned. That lust isn't bad, but it's a language, a code, a signal from the unconscious. And when it hits you like a wave, you don't shame it, you don't chase it, you listen, you ask, what is this really about? What is the part of me that still feels unmet? What am I being invited to see? And when you sit with those questions, when you let the ache breathe instead of drowning it, the answers come. Slowly, softly, but they come. You remember who you are, not who she saw, not who others expected, but who you were before you forgot. And when you remember that man, when you finally come home to him, you realize something profound. You were never chasing her. You were always chasing you. The boy who was once left behind. The man who spent years proving he was enough. The soul who just wanted to be seen, not by the world, not by a woman, but by you. And now you see him. Now you stay. And in that staying, the emptiness begins to fill. Not with noise, not with distraction, but with presence, with peace, with power. So if you find yourself yearning again, aching for someone who makes you feel alive, or wanting someone who doesn't want you back, pause, take a breath, and remember, you think it's lust, but it's actually emptiness. And emptiness isn't a curse, it's a compass. It's pointing you inward. It's asking you to return, not to her, but to yourself. And that return is the beginning of everything.